My name is Gary Bontrager. I'm your host at Mindset Growth Podcast. I have Heather, my co-host, with me here today. How are you, Heather?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm excited to have this guest return. We've had not a lot of guests that have come back for the second time, but this is very unique.
This one's very worthy.
It is extremely worthy.
I should have worn gold jewelry today to represent.
Absolutely. I think the thing that's so unique about it is there are not a lot of people in America that can represent our country the way this guest has represented our country. So I'm very proud to be an American today. And without any further ado, we're going to invite into the show for the second time, gold medalist Matt Stutzman, the Armless Archer. How are you, Matt?
Hello, guys. So does that mean I get a silver if it's my second time on?
No, you started at silver. Now you're
at gold.
Okay,
gold
now
level.
I get gold. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Happy to have you.
I'm sure you've had kind of a whirlwind of a media tour since you've been back. Is life starting to settle down a little bit for you?
I would like to say yes, but unfortunately, it is still going very strong, and the media requests still keep coming in. But you know what, though? I have learned that that's okay because it gives me just more avenues of just kind of telling my story and, you know, getting my message out. So I'm okay with it as long as you're okay with maybe waiting a week or two.
Right. Nope, that's fine. We are happy to have you on. I think one of the things as I watch this whole process unfold, and we don't really have too much of a format today. We're just going to have open dialogue, and we have some questions for you. The number one thing that really when I was watching you, and I'm watching how you performed in certain shots, and then how you kind of regrouped and you come back even stronger. When you were on here the last time, you were telling us about how your body with age doesn't allow you to physically shoot every day and practice like you did. So you were mentally practicing, and how you were making so many shots in your head. And the whole time I'm watching this, I go, the difference now between the gold medal and the silver is Matt's mental condition. Was that a fair thought for me to view that as it was happening?
When you just said that, I could, like, the hair on my neck just was like droop right back up. Absolutely. In fact, I've talked to Jessica about this before, just recently, actually. And there was something that happened in Paris where it all kind of came together with the way the mental prep happened. And I've never trained like this mentally for any other event. I could be dangerous as an archer, now understanding what just happened and continuing to carry that kind of mental practice into the next events if I were to continue. It's kind of one of those things where everything that I mentally prepared for happened. And even going back and looking at, like, today, there was a video I saw of me in Paris on the practice field, and it was really, really windy, and everybody else on the team was just shooting. And it makes no sense to, like, shoot hours and hours in the wind because it messes with so much stuff. So I shot like 4 arrows, and I was mentally, when I shot those arrows, I was preparing for 1 arrow shoot off. So I shot 1 arrow into my target, 1 arrow into KJ's target, 1 arrow into Jason's target, and I just went down the line. And I was 1 arrow shooting, practicing, which turned out that when I made that video, if you look at what happened during the actual games, that was like the most mentally prepared I would have had to been, because I don't know if you guys saw that 1 arrow shoot off shot against Finland.
Yes. That was incredible.
He was less than an inch off of dead center. So it was like 19 millimeters. And when I shot that shot, it was basically like if you were to take a fly and put it out we were shooting 55 yards. So hitting a fly at 55 yards. But it's crazy because when I drew back that arrow to shoot, he got to shoot first because he was the higher ranked archer. I knew where it needed to go, and I was just calm. Like, I was like, oh yeah, this is over for him, and he doesn't even know it. I shot, they don't show this on TV, but I shot the shot, and I watched my arrow disappear into the middle, and I jumped out of my chair with like excitement, like, let's go. And then I had to stop, and then the crowd and the audience got to see where the arrow went. Then the crowd went crazy. Then I was able to go back to going crazy.
And it was because you simply visualized it. You knew right where it was going. I mean, you obviously in a split second.
Yeah, it honestly,
it as well.
like you said earlier, was the difference of the mental prep. I had been preparing for that shot mentally for months without really knowing I was preparing. But when that situation came about, I was just calm. Like, it's just like my body's like, dude, you already know what to do. You know, you've done this a million times in your head. There's no difference between then and now.
Remind our audience, how many times have you been to the Olympics now?
This is my 4th games.
Your 4th.
Okay.
And thinking back to those first Olympics versus now, and I can't remember, you told us last time about, you know, your nerves, and you just kind of tell jokes when you're nervous. And I believe that came up in your first Olympics. And what's been the biggest change for you?
I mean, I'm still going to give it credit to the mental prep, just being mentally ready. Now, here's a story that I've shared slightly, but it's a fairly fresh story. It's an inside story just for you guys.
Perfect.
When I actually went over to the games when the able-bodied were shooting, and I went into the stands, and I spent like a couple days over there, and I saw how the crowd reacted when France was shooting, because that's their home court. So I knew that it was extremely important for me to get the crowd on my side, so it felt like a home's game. So the very first match, I came out playing to the crowd. I acknowledged the fans. I was waving. I was, you know, at one point there was, they gave me a blanket or like a towel for my feet, and I threw it into the crowd, and everybody's like, ah, you know, like I started the process of winning over France. And by the time I get to the gold medal match, you can clearly see even the announcers, you can start seeing how they're all like fans of Matt, and they want Matt to win. And being there live, everybody in there was rooting for Matt. Like, you could just see it. You could feel it when I shot a 10, how everybody reacted. You know, what that, I guess, comes down to the difference of in London, I was making jokes to kind of relax. Well, for here, instead of kind of making the jokes, I was more like winning over the crowd, and then playing to the crowd and giving them a show, and then embracing the moment that I was in. And if you look at the archers that I was shooting against, nobody was smiling. I don't know if you noticed that or not. Nobody really smiled except for me. And you'll see me, you know, laughing and, you know, talking, and like, you know, when I make a good shot, you'll see me go like, let's go, you know. At one point I turned to the crowd, and it was in between rounds, and I remember yelling, "Welcome to Paris," and then the whole place just went, you know, like crazy. And the other archers didn't know how to handle that.
So
that was kind of my way of still being me.
Yeah, your turning point, kind of, so to speak, turned the crowd, and which elevated your mental game, I'm sure.
Brings me to a question then. You did all this mental prep, which clearly helped you win the gold. And you talked about getting the crowd to feel like a home crowd. What's the correlation that you can share of what that energy from the crowd did for you to also help you win?
When you feel comfortable, when you feel at home, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you're just your best, right? So let's say you have a long day at work and you come home, it's your happy place. It's your place of peace. So for me, getting the crowd on my side made it feel like home. It gave me that peace, I would say. If you notice in the competitions, the closer to the gold medal match I got, the stronger I started shooting. The scores gotten better and better. You know, it wasn't like usually what happens is scores go down the closer you get to the goal of, oh my goodness, I'm going to win. And then you just start like, you let it get in your head and then you start not shooting well. But for me, it was the opposite. The more I got closer to it, the better I shot. In fact, in the semifinals against China, I tied the world record. Him and I both tied the record to force another 1 arrow shoot off. And then in the finals, in the gold medal match against China, to win it all, I actually shot 1 point off of perfect, and that's never been done before. So I now have the highest score ever shot at a games, which is crazy. That's just
wow.
And that's what the crowd does. That's what making you feel like a home does.
Yeah. But that's even when you say 1 score off, that's better than even able-bodied archers have done, right?
Yeah. So if you were to take that score that I shot and you were to take it across, let's say, the top 10 able-bodied archery events over last year, I would have won 8 of them.
Wow.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. Yeah.
And it's able-bodied and everything. So
so if you go back and when I seen you do the shoot off with China actually earlier, like at that point, I was like, he's won it. I mean, we gotta go through the process, but he's won it. I wouldn't say I was concerned earlier, but I didn't think you were shooting your ability on some of the earlier matches. So as you were going through those, what was your mindset and your thought process going through that piece of it? Because was that shaking you at all, or you just knew that you were in your mind and in your element and you were stepping your game up to match your competition?
Yeah. So I haven't, let's put it this way. I did not do it on purpose, but
okay.
If you look at there's only one match out of all the matches that I had like an equipment issue. And once I kind of figured that out, then the scoring got better. And that was against Great Britain. I had a sight issue that was happening during the match. But all the other ones were pretty historic matches. And it was my goal to keep it kind of close. And the reason, I know that sounds crazy, I did not want to go to 1 arrow shoot off. So that was definitely my fault, giving that up to get to that point. But I wanted to keep it close because I wanted to be the guy. I wanted to be the guy who was. I didn't want to be so far ahead that my mind went into this mode where it starts shooting to defend versus shooting to still win.
I got
so, you. Here's some insight to that. I had to convince myself at this games that I was mentally prepared. And one of the ways I had to do that was I only took 1 bow to the games. And if you have an equipment malfunction, you're basically done. Right? Well, the reality is that the way I shoot, even if I had an equipment issue, it wouldn't give me enough time to really swap out the equipment and I would still lose anyway. Right?
Right.
So everybody gives me, crap about it, but I've always believed in that you should fear the guy with 1 bow because I have so much confidence in that 1 bow. And if you bring 2 bows and you start shooting bad, in your mind you go, well, maybe I should have shot the other one because the other bow might have been better. Well, even that little bit of doubt isn't going to let you win, right? So I take 1 bow because this is the bow I need to have, and this is the bow I'm going to win with. Number 2 is that if you get so far ahead of your competitor, and it shows in some of my stuff against like Mexico and things like that. If you get so far ahead, then your brain it starts to lose its focus. It starts to lose I know that sounds weird, but you start losing that edge. But if it's close where every shot kind of matters, you tend to pay attention to the details. So that way each shot counts more. And it's just the way the nature of people are, right? If
right.
Watch professional sports. Watch some team in football be in 30 points up at halftime and still lose. Right. Why is that? And I didn't want to be that guy. So I didn't do it on purpose per se, but I try to keep it close enough that I would still shoot with the same intensity each shot, and it was just good enough to win. And it just so happened that when I got into the higher matches, those guys were a lot better. So I had to just stay just a little bit ahead of them.
Going into this, did you have a pretty good idea of who you would end up matching up to as you went through? Was that part of your mental process, picking out your opponent, or you were just focused on your thing and whoever they put in that slot was going to be there?
Yeah. So, honestly, my whole focus was just doing my best.
Okay.
I honestly didn't even think about medaling. I didn't think about how cool it would be to have a gold medal. I didn't think of any of that stuff. In fact, I took my family this time. I don't know if I had told you that before, but we've called it the memories game. And that was because my focus was to make memories while I was over there.
Yeah.
And then focus on just doing the best that I can, and whatever happens, happens. I knew I was good enough to win. I knew I had put in the mental training to win. But I didn't know I was going to win until that last match came up. And then the guy from China made a mistake, and I knew it was over after that.
Wow.
That's when you felt like you were going to win, is when he made the mistake?
Yeah. And here's the mistake. Here's the mistake. And this plays into the mindset here. If you watch every match, I was the lower ranked archer, and the higher ranked archer always gets to choose who shoots first. And it is in your best interest to always shoot first, because if I'm shooting against you and I shoot a 10 on my very first arrow, now you have to shoot a 10. And you already know you have to shoot 10 because I shot a 10. And then a lot of people, they're like, well, don't shoot a 9 then, because and then they'll shoot a 9, right? It's just the way people's minds work. For the first time in the games, when I went into the gold medal match, before I went out to shoot, the guy from China tried to get in my head, and he told me to shoot first. He messed up. And then I knew it was over. Before we walked out, I was like, that's why when you see me shoot that 1-9, and I'm like, it's okay. I tell the crowd, like, it's okay. Don't worry about it. It's fine. I knew it was going to be fine, because I still shot first every single round except for the last 3 arrows. And by that time, I had already won it.
So why did he got to choose in the shoot off then?
So
or why did he get to shoot first the last 3? I didn't understand that.
Yeah. So when you're the higher ranked archer, and that's based off of the qualification scores.
Right.
When you're the higher ranked archer, at the beginning of the match, you choose who shoots first and second.
Okay.
Once you start shooting, the archer that is losing, therefore then gets to shoot first. And if you watch, and like I said, it's important to shoot first every single time, right? If you watch, I shoot first every single 3 arrows. I shoot first until the last 3. Well, ones that mattered, but I had already won it at that point.
Right.
And he just didn't know it. Like, he started falling apart. And that's because he shouldn't have gave me that. He shouldn't have said, I want, like, he was trying to play mind games with me instead of focusing on what he was doing. And he should have chose to shoot first. Not that the outcome would have been any different, but it could have been. But that's when I knew. Before before I even shot a single arrow against him, I knew I was going to win it, because he chose for me to go first. And I was like, oh, man.
I was just watching his facial expression.
Yeah.
And I felt like he came out looking defeated.
He did. He did.
I didn't think he looked like he had. And I didn't really watch him earlier. I went and tried to find some clips from him earlier to see the comparison. But he looked scared, I would say. Yeah. When he came out, and I'm just sitting there going, dude, you know you're getting steamrolled here. I mean, he knew it was coming. It was interesting, and I don't understand how he could be at that level, other than maybe it was his first time or something, and he didn't have the mental prep that he needed. But
he's actually podiumed. He podiumed in Tokyo.
He did. Okay. So he's had prior experience.
Yeah, he's good. He's like probably 2 or 3 in the world right now.
Okay.
But the difference is that my mind game, my mental prep was better than his. And here's a good way that you can there's so many things. I watch the finals all the time again. And okay, there's a shot where he shoots a high 9 and it's almost an 8. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And you see him look back at his coach and he makes some sort of adjustment. And then you see him grab his sight like he's moving his sight. That was so off that had nothing to do with the sight. That was him flinching and choking it up. But he didn't want to come off as like he pretended like it was a boat issue, and it wasn't. It was the very next shot, it was dead center, right? Like it had nothing. I didn't move my sight once I got into the matches. I didn't move my sight once because I already knew where everything was going to go. So if it was out, it was me. You know, like I jerked it, I punched it, I whatever. Here's another thing that was interesting. He had to have
known that as well.
I feel like I'm talking a lot, but I have so much cool stuff about this.
We like listening. So
before I went out to the gold medal match, I had about 20 minutes. I just won the semifinals. I take my bows and I set them back in the staging area, and then I run around into the stadium. And my family meets me down by this little gate, and I bribed the security guard to let me in. I gave him a selfie, and then he let me in, right? And then I go to my family, and for 5 minutes, while the semifinal, the bronze match is going on, during that 5 minutes or whatever, I celebrate with my family. We're hugging, we're cheering, we're like, you know, all pumped up, and we're excited. And then I'd say, hey, no matter what happens, like, it's okay. Like, today was a blast. You know, the fact that you guys were here was just like the best thing that ever could have happened to me. So no matter what happens on this next round, like, it's okay. And what that did for me is in those 5 minutes, I didn't think about archery once.
Yeah.
So then when I turned around to go back out, I went back into the staging. And then that's when they told me I was shooting first. That mental reset is what I had that he never got. Because while I was enjoying that moment with my family, not thinking about archery, that dude was sitting in the staging room thinking about archery and not mentally resetting. And that's a huge, for me, that's a huge part of just everything that happened in those matches, because we did that. I did that every round. Every time I had beat somebody, I would go back and I would spend time with my family resetting. And then I would come back out refreshed and ready to go. And you know how important it is to mentally reset, right? Like that's huge. And that's what I was doing. That's kind of like the little secret sauce, I should say.
So your advice would be to people when they get into tough, stressful situations, they got to do a mental reset.
Of course. I believe that without a doubt. Believe it 100%. There's so many times where I'm struggling mentally with something and I'll just like take a minute, but you actually have to like truly reset. Like you have to do something that makes you completely forget about what you were doing. Like it's not even a thought. And then you just come back to it, bam, and attack it. And for me, that works all the time. Like it's one of the most important things about me that I truly believe. And this is what's crazy. Like I said earlier, if I would take all this knowledge that I practice for this specific games and roll with it into LA, I feel like I could win again, because it's like finding that key that I never had before.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it just, I don't think I'm going to go to LA. Just letting you know.
The decision's been made.
Yeah. So it's really hard. Yes. It's 99% sure it's been made.
Okay.
The racing thing is taking off. I'm getting a lot of traction with that. And I'm loving it a lot. But just to have another 4 years of archery training, I just don't think my body could take it. You know, taking a month or two to mental train and not shoot a lot is one thing, but taking 4 years off, I definitely. And at this games, if you look at the history of who I had to compete against and the people, you're talking about I shot against an Armless Archer. from Mexico.
Okay.
That was the
Right.
first time in history. In fact, he was a guy I taught how to shoot. I shot against the guy who beat me in London to win the gold, right? Then I shot against the two best archers basically in the world. They're both from China. In fact, the guy in the semifinals was the gold medalist from Tokyo, I believe.
Okay.
You know, so like all these, and then to end the gold medal match with a world record, you know, like I'm undefeated in the you know, the competition. Right? I don't have a single loss. So if I go into LA, even if I were to win, I don't think it could top any of this stuff, I guess, you know.
So sometimes when you have a mic drop moment, it's best
have
to
to
walk
walk
away.
away.
Go out on top.
No, it was an incredible finish. The overall score. The thing that I probably focused on and watched the most when I watched it was because we had you on this podcast and I knew what your mental prep was. I was watching your body language and I'm watching your opponent's body language.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting to hear you explain how your performance kept rising as the competition did, because the first couple, I'm like, this might get ugly in a hurry. But it's like it just kept stepping up. And by the time you got down to the last couple, I was like, yeah, he's in a really good spot here. And it's building for, you know, to a crescendo that's going to finish really strong. And then when your final round, when he had that bad shot that was almost an 8, I was like, oh, he just put a dagger in his heart there. I mean, it's got to be over. But when it was all over, your emotion and expression, and I mean, you could tell the commentators were pulling for you. I mean, you could hear that just when they were talking about it. And then all those reactions, I mean, what an incredible experience and feeling. Talk a little bit about your emotion at that point.
So in the 13, 14 years of professional archery and things I've won and stuff like that, this is the first one I like got emotional over. Like I cried a bunch. I mean, there was sometimes I was teary-eyed on, you know, CBS or whatever like that. But behind the scenes, I was definitely very teary-eyed and like just trying to hold it all in. But it wasn't because I won a gold medal. It wasn't necessarily because I had put in all this time to get there. It was, and I still get a little bit emotional about it, but it was because my family was there. So I know that sounds crazy. You just get emotional because your family was there. But for me, Paris was a bonding with my family moment. So archery has taken a lot of time. It took me a lot away from it. I spent a lot of time on the road. So I didn't spend a lot of time at home as much as I would have liked. So like Cameron, he's the middle kid. Every year on his birthday is one of the biggest tournaments of the year. So I miss his birthday like 10 years in a row. And it's because I had to provide for my family. That's how I made a living. And this was important for me just to bond with my kids and like share, this is what your dad's been doing for the last 13, 14 years. And this is why he did it. And it's because he loves you. And, you know, that to me is why I get emotional about it.
Right.
So after winning, they wanted to do an interview. And I said, I want to see my family first.
Yeah.
And they said, well, they don't have the credentials to be on the field of play. And I said, well, then you ain't getting any interviews. And it's amazing what people will do when they want an interview. So they brought my family down, my full family, my dad, my mom, my 2 older sisters, then all the boys, Jessica. And they started to tear down the podium, and I grabbed them all. And we went out on the field of play, and we all held hands, and then we walked together as a family onto the podium.
Wow.
And from what I can understand, I'm probably the only athlete in the Olympic history that's ever done that. I don't know of anybody else who's ever done that. And it's amazing. They didn't stop me. They didn't tell me no. But those moments and those memories and those bonding experiences with my kids, like, we are closer now than we've ever been.
Right.
You know, like I had like Cameron's kind of been in trouble here and there, and I didn't ever think he was going to graduate. And then we came back from Paris, and I don't know what switched in his mind, but now he's like on par to graduate early, and he has like where he wants to go with his life. I don't know if Paris just opened his eyes to what like life could be like if you are, you know, successful, or I don't know. I don't know what it is, but like you're seeing changes even in my kids. And that's why I get emotional. That's why that meant so much to me. I think it still would have been awesome even if I wouldn't have won. But definitely winning helped with that experience.
Well, and you didn't just win, you won in complete grand fashion. And the thing I think that often it's easy for general just people to look at somebody like you and go, oh, that'd be cool. That'd be nice. I'd like those breaks, which I know you well enough to know the breaks that you've gotten, they don't want. But, you know, that's often how we look at those things. But I think to take it a step further, for you to perform at that level, and it even happens, I mean, I can say that there's things I did for work that my family paid a price for. Mm-hmm. And there's no doubt that kids don't understand that. They process that like, you know, mom, dad, they just don't maybe love me like they should, because as humans, we tend to be selfish. But to have that experience with your kids, it probably connected all the dots, and they probably understood why it is you did what you did, and that you really were doing whatever maybe was at one point your only option to provide for them at the level you wanted to provide for them. So I would just have anyone listening to this, that's a takeaway that I see happen. I think often we can be real selfish about that. And, you know, you were frankly absolutely taking the best opportunity that was presented to you. It just put you on a path that took you even places 10 years ago. I don't know if you would have imagined this or not.
No. If you were to tell me 10 years ago that this was going to be my life, I would have probably laughed. Do I, you know, archery, hunting, things like that? Yes. But to be considered like the best in the world at a sport,
right?
You know, that's mind blowing. And it's something. Here's another kind of thing that someone brought to my attention the other day, was that archery is one of those rare sports that you can have a physical disability and compete against the best in the world at. So if you have swimmer, a guy without arms, he usually generally swims against other people without arms or somebody with some sort of, but if you were to put him in a pool with Michael Phelps, there's no way. That's just reality.
Right.
But you could take an archer and he could literally shoot perfect scores or beat the best in the world that have no disabilities. And that's what, you know, that's what's cool about archery, I guess. Just to throw that out there.
Right.
So we've seen some of your videos too of how you have inspired so many others without arms to try it out. And I believe I saw one of a younger girl that was, I can't remember where she was from, but it seems like you've had some pretty cool influence over people. Yeah.
So when I started, I was the only armless archer, and was the only armless archer all the way up until 2020, let's say the 2000, well, Tokyo, Japan or Tokyo, which was delayed because of COVID. So what was that, 2021? That's when the second armless archer made his debut. He's from Belgium, a guy that I helped. And then it started to gain steam. And now there's like, at this games, there was 4 armless archers.
Wow.
All of them, if you watch, they all have something on their equipment that I've helped design or make. I've taught them like through coaching. The girl from India is going to set the world on fire in a much bigger way than I ever did. And I think that's another reason why I got kind of emotional at this games, is because you're starting to see this movement of impossible is no longer like in people's mouths, right? Like it is possible for people to do this. And she won a bronze. So for the first time in games history, you have 2 armless people also podium. By LA, there's probably going to be 7, not including me. I'll be there to, do stuff, but I won't be competing, I'm pretty sure. And then, but even still, 7 armless archers.
Yeah.
Now, just to put that in perspective, they don't just get like a free ticket. You have to have a trials. You have to shoot a MQS score, which is the set really high. You have to be able to be a proven archer at international tournaments. Like there's a long process that allows you to compete at this level. So it's not like, and these armless archers are doing that at an elite level, which maybe there's something to shooting with your feet. I don't know.
Well, at this point, though, you have proven you can shoot next to a perfect score. And so if you can do it, others can too, just like Michael Phelps is, and we can go through athlete after one after another. Whenever those barriers are broke, somebody else is going to understand they can achieve that as well. So you've really created a path there. Shifting gears a little bit, I know you're into racing now, drag racing. So those that can't get enough of following you on this, even though you're shifting directions.
That was a good segue. Sorry, shifting gears. We're going to racing now.
Sometimes I hit it well. So what's your new nickname going to be, or what's your mantra now? Are you going to be the armless drag racer? You're going to always be the armless archer? And then on a second question, I have to believe you're probably going to be involved in mental coaching with some of these archers at some point, or some level of coaching.
Yeah, I have. We have a lot of big plans happening right now. There's to a point where I want to give back to the sport that has given me so much. So
okay,
the mental coaching is something that I would love to do. I just need to find the right athlete that's willing to do the extreme that I believe it needs to be taken to get to that next level. And I say that in a very friendly way. It's not actually extreme, but it's more about belief in yourself. And sometimes there's things you have to do in your program that are kind of like out of this, like people are like, really, that's what you do? Like sometimes you have to do that to get your body and mind to believe that you are capable. Sometimes you have to have that major reset. However, we are designing new products as far as outside of the mindset thing. We are designing new products that help people shoot bows better when it comes to archery. And then as far as racing is concerned, I've tried to change my name. We came up with Armless Matt, which is nothing cool. But every time I go to the racetrack, every time I go anywhere, they still say Armless Archer Lane 1. Armless Archer Lane 2. So it really doesn't matter. I think that name has just stuck with me forever, which is okay.
And it should be. You've earned it.
When you think of cars and Armless Archer, you don't actually like those don't even like, wait a minute. They don't even make any sense. But the more people get to know me and the announcers, it just comes out. Like that's just what people call me. But no, got some exciting news that I will be running some NHRA events this year.
Awesome.
So that is
Congrats.
good. Yes. We have a totally new combo in the car and should go even faster than we've ever been before. As far as outside of drag racing, I'm doing a lot of things. We're game planning to potentially have a show.
Okay.
Which is basically just the life of Matt and me going around the United States doing just various things that people would think is pretty much unbelievable for a guy without arms. And the whole point of the show is to not just entertain people with comedy and humor, but to educate people more about what people with physical disabilities can actually do. And then the reality is that they can actually do a lot if you just allow them and give them that choice. So that's what I'm working on for the future. Archery will still be important to me. Drag racing is still important to me. By the way, shifting gears real quick, don't you have a tractor that you do tractor pulling with?
I do. Yes.
Yeah. Did you just do like really good recently?
I had a good year. It's
Yeah,
the name of the tractor
see. I follow that. I see what's
you
going
do pay
on.
attention. The name of the tractor is Breaking Barriers, and we've broke a lot of barriers.
And that's
Mine were
you run diesel, right?
Diesel, yes.
Yeah.
8500 limited pro stock diesel. And it's we're drag racing with more, well, I wouldn't, probably not more horsepower, but a different vehicle, and we're dragging weights. But that's really all it is a drag race.
Listen, I think it's cool either way. I think motorsports in general, whatever that is, whether it's tractor pulling or drag racing or whatever, I think it's still an awesome avenue to get your story out, right?
Well,
like it's all that's important, because for me, in my mind, a car doesn't care who drives it. A tractor doesn't care who does it, right? Like it just wants to be driven. It just wants to be raced.
All right. And when you talk about family, my youngest son actually picked the name, and that whole breaking barriers, I can tell you this year, relationships, so many things are so symbolic to the name of it all. And it's brought so many things together. So I can kind of identify with some of the things that you're talking about. And I think the cool thing with motorsports is, as long as we can dream, we can keep creating improvements.
Yeah.
And so it's something that always challenges us to grow. And so, yes, based off of that, I'll do a quick plug. We are starting a Breaking Barriers podcast, and it's going to be going back and interviewing like family members from maybe what I would say giants in the sport that helped create it, that have passed on. And or if we can find those folks, we're going to try to build a lot of just history around that to educate people and bring more of an audience to that sport. So I guess that's a little plug for that side of it. But it's been fun. It's been, and I would say, I go back and I listen to you talk about that. We had out of, I believe, 18 passes or hooks and pulls. We won 7, got 3 seconds. And I will tell you, the mental prep, I mean, I can tell you which 4 I lost, I should have won. Like vividly, they're etched in my mind. But a lot of that was a mental process.
Yeah.
And I could sit in the seat. Once that chain dropped in the hook, I knew what was happening at the other end, because I could just visualize that. Yeah. And when you start to see the defeat and all those things build, and it's different than confidence. Yeah. Confidence will carry a person a long way, but when you got your mind right and you've meditated and seen this stuff happening, it's a total different feeling. But anyway, thanks for mentioning that. It's been an incredible year. We did win the points championship in our regional series, which is now opening doors for me to get into some national stuff a little bit more. And so we're excited to see where that all goes. However, done with my plug.
I follow that and I watch it. So I knew that you had done well this year. I do have a question though. When you talk about, you said your son picked the name or something like that, right? Just because I like to ask questions. I have noticed in the racing world, for me, my family's there a lot more, because we can get in an RV and we go to the track, we stay the weekend. Right. There's things for everyone to help out with. And we're much more, we bond a lot at a racetrack. Do you kind of feel like that way too? When you're pulling and stuff like that, you have your family around and you're bonding, kind of like, sharing that experience with them?
100%. I have got brothers that I just wasn't very close to because life happened and we had kids. And this has really brought us together, like my immediate family. Yep. I've got cousins that we hadn't talked in years. I've got, nieces, nephews, some of those that have acted. And, when we picked that name, we'd narrowed it down to about 6. And one day I got the call, I'm almost emotional talking about it because it's flooding me just like it does you, I'm sure, about, what all went into it. Yep. And then you see all these, you're asking me this question. I feel like I'm on the other side of the table right now. But, the relationships and how it's brought family and community, even my local community growing up, I feel like it's really just brought some of those relationships together for me. So it's been an awesome experience with all of that.
So that feeling that you just shared and how you're talking about getting emotional, but that feeling that just kind of come up in you while you're talking about it, that's the feeling I had, right? When I was in Paris. That's the same exact emotion, just kind of everything coming up. But that's why we're strong. That's why our mental game is strong, because we have that little edge, that little excitement, that little emotion, you know, because of all of this stuff is another good way to be strong mentally. Right. So, hey,
you know,
we're
and
winners
that's
together.
Absolutely. The thing I would challenge people listening to this, they can listen to this and they can watch you with a physical disability overcome incredible odds.
Mm.
But probably the disability that a lot of people deal with, regardless of if it's physical or they have no physical disability, is, and I don't know if this is the correct term, but it's almost a mental disability. And that's what I had. And it wasn't that I was less smart than other people, but it was how I viewed myself and how I, you know, frankly, through experiences with school teachers and things, that I thought I was a stupid kid. So that name on that tractor means a whole lot more, because I had to overcome mentally my disabilities. And for me to do the things that I've done in life, you know, I mean, I tell people I've lived 3 lifetimes because I've changed that much inside my head. And so that's the incredible piece. And when we had you on last time, you talked about the defeat of sitting on the sofa and just looking for a glimmer of hope to break through, and you shot a deer and you felt like that was providing for your family because you could put food on the table. You know, I would challenge anyone listening to this, you've just got to look for those little pieces of hope and keep pushing forward on them, because it changed your life. It completely changed it.
It doesn't have to be anything big. It can literally be something very small.
Because you didn't get where you're at on the podium over there with a gold medal and your family around you in one decision. That was 12 to 13 years of multiple decisions and failures to put you there. So it was just an incredible journey to watch you do all of that. One thing I do want to ask you, the show you're doing, is that going to be a TV show, or where are people going to be able to find that?
Yeah, so it started off. It started off a couple years ago. I did a documentary on Netflix called Rising Phoenix.
Okay.
And if you guys get a chance, you should check that out. It's still on Netflix as of now. Then it transformed into they asked me to do a podcast with Michael Johnson, the Olympic runner, and then that turned out to be like a super successful thing. And now to a point where they've come back to me and we're like, look, let's take this to the next level. Our vision is that by the time LA comes around, we're more like a late night show, like maybe like a Jimmy Fallon style show, but I'm the host and it focuses kind of on, you know, the hosts are and the people in are people with disabilities. And we kind of, you know, we have storylines with athletes who have disabilities or, you know, stuff like that. And that's kind of the long-term goal here, where that's where it ends up. We're still working on all that right now. so
Netflix will be where people can find it.
Netflix right now is where you can find it. Yes.
Okay. And you're not going to tell us any more than that.
Can't, not yet. I wish I could just tell you everything.
Awesome. So, we're going to wrap it up here in a bit, but with the drag racing, is there anywhere people can follow you there? Is there a YouTube channel? Is it still on the Armless Archer? If people want to see you, I mean, clearly once you're, you know, racing and running with the NHRA, they can see you on their TV productions, but where can they follow you on local levels? Is that being anywhere that it's accessible?
Right now, just on my social media, which I'm still needing to get better at. But yeah, Facebook, which is the Armless Archer. I do have Instagram and TikTok, which I don't post. I'm being educated on how to post there. so I'm slowly building that platform up. I do have a YouTube, but once again, I'm still very new to that. Called, that's, well, like I said, we're changing that. YouTube would be Armless Matt. And I do have a
Okay.
website, which I know nobody does websites anymore, but armlessmatt.com. And it's basically, if you just want a general of who is Matt, the website shows me speaking, doing motivational speeches. It shows me racing. It shows my archery. Just in general, this is who Matt is. And it's just a good place to kind of get to know me, especially if you want to like book, you know, an appearance or book me to come talk or something like that.
Right. Excellent. Heather, you have any other questions?
Can you share with us after your gold, I believe it was, you took your family, the whole family out to eat. You kind of shared that on your welcome back to Fairfield.
So after I won, I had to do like all the drug testing and all that stuff that they do. And so I didn't get out of the venue until 12:30 in the morning. And my family was right around the corner and to celebrate with me, you know, supper. And I don't know who picked the restaurant, but I walked in there and, you know, there's like 15 people and they're all eating. I look down and there's like escargot. Do you guys know what that is? It's like snails and whatever. And there's all these like cheese and meat boards and I'm tired, right? Like I just spent the entire day shooting and I'm mentally just like exhausted. And everybody's like, you know, celebrating that we won. And I'm sitting there and then all of a sudden I realized that I have to pay the bill. And I remember leaning over to Jessica and be like, I was like, babe, you know, when I came to Paris, when I won a gold, I didn't realize I was spending like $1,200 on dinner tonight. I was like, McDonald's we can pack up right now. I'm fine with a McDonald's. Like, if you guys want to go to McDonald's, let's go there. But no, it turned out okay. It was well worth it. It was definitely moments like that. It's okay to just celebrate and you know,
spend
it's okay.
a little money on cheese and
spend
escargot.
a little money on cheese and snails.
There you go.
Oh gosh. Well, thank you very much for coming onto Mindset Growth Podcast. We really appreciate it. We wish you nothing but the best. We'll continue to follow you and support you, and we'll ask our audience to do the same. It's been such an inspiration. Has resonated with me so much just from your mental prep and how mentally you've changed and what a different person you are mentally. It's created so many opportunities and it's built you an audience that loves to cheer for you and see you win. So thanks for what you've given back to this world. Thank you again, Matt.
Thanks for having me on. I do appreciate it a lot. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to kind of just dabble in the mindset side of things, and I do appreciate it. Thank you.